I'm here to talk a little bit about Dosatron and how we fit into the movement that's what a lot of people are calling from flowers to food. So growing food has become more and more popular as a locally grown establishment. People actually setting up, on their off season, taking their greenhouse operation and putting food into it to allow that they're actually able to sell to these local markets. So I'm sure some of you guys are seeing some of that. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about how Dosatron fits into that. So, we are the original inventor of the water-powered dosing technology. So we've been doing this for 40 years. So the nice thing is that Dosatron has a lot of experience in blending concentrated products with water. And that's anything from insecticides, pesticides of any kind, fungicides, and of course fertilizers and your PGRs. We are trusted by the top 100, most of the top 100 growers. So you can see here that we've got Dan and Jerry's who bought a ton of the Dosa carts so they could send them out all to their retail locations, and all their plants would stay looking beautiful, even out on the retail side. And then you've got Green Circle Growers, who puts it on all of their irrigation booms. So one of the things that most people like to do when they use automation is they like to apply different products onto their crops. So this is one way. Dosatron allows us a simple way to do that. Metrolina Greenhouses has a lot of them tied in into their main irrigation system. So that's a nice thing to have with us. And then MidAmerican Growers, this is Monty. He's one of our biggest fans. We appreciate working with him. He's a great guy. The D25 F1 is a fixed at 1:100. We actually have this on special here today. It does 11 gallons per minute. We're running at a special today for $249. And 11 gallons per minute fixed at 1:100. This is a super simple unit to use, very cost effective, and it gets you into a Dosatron single hose application. It actually works very, very well with the Eco Cart as far as cost goes. So you can see here we've kind of shown the D25 F1 with the Eco Cart. The D14 MZ2 is going to step you up a little bit. We're going to go to 14 gallons per minute, and we also get the adjustability within that unit. So you get anything from 1 to 50 to 1 to 500, allowing you a lot of versatility in the products that you can use through this, and also different dilution rates, which is very nice to have when you're using different fungicides. It's nice to maybe dilute them down a little bit more so they're a little more suspension in order to go through the Dosatron. So it's a perfect unit for low flow, also still very cost effective. D14 MZ3000. This is a newer unit to us. This is perfect for some of your sanitization practices. When you're looking to add products like, let's say, Xeritol or an uptake, and you want to put that in your line, it works perfect because it goes all the way down to 1 to 3,000. So a lot of these sanitation products, they run anywhere from 1 to 3,000 to 1 to 1,000. And so we brought this product onto the market so that we could also kind of fit that niche as well. So when it comes to growing food, one of the biggest things that we run into is sanitization, right? Once we get to growing food versus growing ornamentals, we're held to a different standard as far as sanitization goes. And so this will allow us all of these products, as well as being able to still have the Dosatron reliability and stay proportional when using those expensive products, right? So D45 is 20 gallons per minute. And you see here we actually have it on an irrigation boom because it fits perfectly into the manifold and works really, really well with the typical flows that you're going to get there. This is more of a two-hose application. The 20 gallon per minute unit it steps us up again one more level and allows, when we're using two hoses, sometimes we can be over 7 gallons per minute, which is most of the heads are rated for. So 14 might be just too little to handle the higher flow. So stepping up to the 20 is a good step in the right direction. And then you've got the D8RE2. This unit is 40 gallons per minute. We put this out about 2 years ago, updated the product so that now it's all polypropylene, and it's much more chemically resistant than its predecessor, which was the D8R. So those of you that have the D8R, you know it's a reliable unit. It's been out there a long time, but it's now been updated, and it's even gotten better, believe it or not. Now we're going back again to this concept of sanitization, and we're talking about these products that we're going to use when we're growing food. When that comes up, we need to, again, go down to something that goes to 1 to 3,000. So 1 to 3,000 gets us into, again, some of these sanitization practices that are really important, along with the ability to put some of these supplements and things that are super concentrated. So it's nice to have that option, again, 1 to 3,000 and 1 to 800 on that unit. Again, 40 gallons per minute. And it's perfect for also doing some pH control when necessary. So spot application pH control, it works very, very well with that. And then you step up to the workhorse, the 100 gallon per minute D20S. This is going to be for your higher flows or for an entire operation. So a lot of times people will use 1 or 2 of these. And if they use 2 of them, they're going to be in series, so they can do 2 different products. But now they can broadcast that to their entire facility, which the 100 has the capability of doing that. So Dosatrons are everywhere. What we've done is we've tried to fit Dosatrons to go from a bit of a niche product, meaning going from just working in the greenhouse to fitting it into multiple applications. So you can see here we've actually got it set up to run an entire drip system. We can actually fit them out into field agriculture. There's different ways to do that, either by using a large unit and running it straight out to the crop, or actually using a smaller unit and building a diverter into the system to allow us to use that smaller unit and proportion the proper amount of product to go to a large area. So there's different ways to accomplish field agriculture. And then you've got the garden centers. So as far as garden centers go, you're going to have more than likely we're going to put that stuff on a cart, make it easy to get around, plug into any hose bib that we have around the facility. And so and even living walls, we're getting more popular in that, because don't forget we go from super low flow to high flows, and anywhere within a tolerance of a unit. So, you know, the 14 gallon per minute, as an example, goes all the way from 0.05 gallons, which is a third of a pint a minute, up to 14 gallons per minute, anything from 5 psi to 85 psi. And within those tolerances, we're always accurate. So that's what's great about a water-powered proportioner. The standard bypass installation, pretty straightforward. We always ask that you put a 200 mesh filter before the unit to protect the unit from any scoring or dirt or grit that's going to get into the system. So that's important. We want to just show this installation so you guys get an idea of what that looks like. We're now pushing more and more the idea of using water hammer arresters anytime you're using automation. So if you guys have any kind of solenoids that you're firing on and off, and you have had issues either in your plumbing or with your Dosatrons, and you see cracking or breaking, more than likely the fix, and that goes across all of us, all the different water-powered proportioners. You see any kind of cracking or breaking, or you see any issues where you're starting to see units deplete much more quickly than they should, water hammer arrestor is what you want to go with, and the water hammer arrestor is going to save a lot of your plumbing and things from water hammer. And one of the other things we've recently learned, the manufacturers of water hammer arrestors don't tell you this, but don't always put a water hammer arrestor straight in line like this, meaning that if that T was set so that the line was going straight here, you actually would lose the effect of water hammer arrestor. What you want to do is jog that so that the impact of water hammer, which if we have a solenoid closing here, is going to come back towards the unit. We want to actually actuate that water hammer arrestor in line with whatever flow is going to come back. So that's a good thing to learn, and will make your water hammer arrestor much more effective. In-series installation. So again, this goes down to once we go over to food, sometimes we need an A and a B tank, right? Because we're going to have our calcium nitrate, or we're going to be able to manipulate between calcium nitrate and your PK complex. So if you're looking to go from a single bag feed, obviously this doesn't apply. But once you go into food, a lot of times you need control based on where you're going to be in the growing process. You're going to need a little more control over your NPK ratios to each other. So using a single bag feed can still accomplish that, but can be a little bit more challenging. So a lot of guys have kind of switched to running them in series. So this allows, again, in this example, 14 gallon per minute units. So it's still 14 gallons per minute, but now we can have, let's say, one product set at 1 to 100 and one product set at 1 to 200, and allow that blend to be somewhat versatile. So it's nice to have a series installation when you're using multiple products at once versus trying to blend them and concentrate. So as we've continued to kind of push into this veggie market, what we've realized is that we work very, very well with drip because, again, we go from low flows to the high flow of that unit within its tolerances. And so because of that, it allows us some flexibility in drip. And drip has become more and more an easy way to kind of take on this flowers to food movement versus going fully hydroponic or going fully what they call NFT, nutrient film technique, which is, the gutters with the lettuce heads that you see a lot when you see large greenhouse hydroponic operations. Some of that stuff could be more, it's not so much the equipment is costly, but the time and effort it takes to tear that stuff down and put it back every year and then try to put flowers and food back in the same greenhouse. So this system kind of allows you to run out a drip line that you may already have on the bench and run multiple products, again, an ABC or an AB and an acid that you may need a little more control with food, again, versus flowers. So we've also taken this concept and tried to make it a little more turnkey by developing the nutrient delivery system. So we actually have all of these parts in a kit that you can buy, and it allows the user to have everything they need from the protection of the unit, the filter, the pressure regulator, a check valve, and then they can put multiple units in series. We can do up to 8 units in series, which seems like a lot, but you'd be surprised at what food guys end up using as their mix. So, and then we have mixing chambers in line, which is nice to have for products that you need a little bit of additional blending before they mix with other products. So a very good example is in food, a lot of these guys are using some sort of silicate complex in order to mask some of the issues that come up with recirculating systems. And so what they're able to do is put that silicate in there and then get additional blending before they blend it with the calcium nitrate, because those two, if they're too concentrated, will bind up. So there's some flexibility in the system. And then the nutrient monitor. So for those people that want to actually see what's coming out of the system right there live in real time, they're able to do that with an inline EC and pH meter. And you can see all the different applications here. We go from aquaponics. Obviously, we talked a little bit about drip on the bench. Vertical farming is becoming incredibly popular in some of these urban areas. And then aeroponics, which has its place as well. Vegetable production, just wanted to show you an example of, again, that ABC or that AB and a pH. This guy actually built his own mixing chamber, which is absolutely works fantastic. So it comes out of a 1-inch line and goes into a 6-inch pipe. And what that does is just creates turbulence. So then he closes it back down into a 1.5-inch line and goes out to the greenhouse. Just an example of what it can look like, again, with an ABC. This is actually in series and in parallel. So meaning that they've got multiple units for different products, and then they've got multiple units here that will allow for, instead of 40 gallons per minute, we've got 80 gallons per minute running through the system, but still running 3 different products. So there, you can see here there's flexibility from going from parallel installations to in-series installations and what that looks like when they're combined. This is an example of just parallel and what it would look like when you're running again. Now we've got 2 14s. We're actually able to run 28 gallons per minute. So one of the things that people assume after time is that if they go from a 14 gallon per minute and now they've got 20 gallons per minute, that they need to buy a whole new unit, and the 14 kind of goes to the side. One way that you can save money is by actually setting up a parallel installation and just buying another 14, and now you've actually got 28 gallons per minute. So it buys you more headroom and a little bit more flexibility in that configuration. This is just an example of we can do up to 400 gallons per minute at this location. We're able to accomplish that by running 4 100s in parallel. And actually see somebody mounted them high enough that they can run all their barrels below and not have any restriction on that floor space. So there's creative ways to keep Dosatrons kind of out of the way. Another example of a parallel installation here. They're using a single, now this is a good example of somebody that does use a single bag mix. So these guys have 3 different bags that they use throughout their growing process. They're growing lettuce, they're growing basil, leafy greens of any kind. And so they're able to get away with using a single bag mix. So again, it's not that it can't be done, it's just that there's different ways to accomplish the same goal. 240 gallons per minute on this one. This is all our 40 gallon per minute unit. And the nice thing is the way this system is set up is that based on when flow kicks on in certain sections of the greenhouse, each one of these will kick on independently. So it gives you, again, a little bit more flexibility. If you guys have questions on this installation and the details in it, I can go over that with you a little bit on the side. And then we've even gone to 600 gallons per minute. So for the longest time, we thought 500 was as high as we could exceed. We did some installations here. These are now watering 1 million mums in the field. So that's been a fantastic testament for us. So the little buddy cart is really a great fit for going to this flowers to food movement. And why it is because this unit will deal with those little bit caustic products that are going to oxidize, right? So again, we're going through the sanitization practices. You're actually going to see that you're going to end up using more than likely a portable system. We'll talk a little bit about foamers here in a minute, but you can see it here on the bench here. It even has a foam wand attached to it. Allows us to foam the sanitary products onto walls, onto benches, onto floors, increases contact time, and that contact time allows that stuff to break down a little bit faster, and contact time actually allows the product to continue to work on that organic matter. So if it's sanitization, that is one thing that you want to make sure that you're using foam on, because it's going to be enough contact time to actually break down some of those pathogens that you're trying to kill. So it's a fantastic fit because it's all either rotomolded plastic or stainless steel. So this little buddy cart has really good fit when you're trying to use a little bit more harsh chemicals. The Dosa cart is a kind of a uncle to the little buddy. And what I mean by that is that now we've integrated the 15-gallon tank right into the unit itself. So now we've got 15 gallons worth of product we can use. This is obviously for much larger applications than the little buddy, which is flexible with 5-gallon and 6-gallon buckets. So, Dosatrons are easy to maintain. That's one of the things we take a lot of pride in, is our ability to help you guys keep your Dosatrons and your dosing units running. So outside of having all kinds of resources like YouTube and videos and great breakdowns on the manuals for troubleshooting and repair, we also provide something called a mini maintenance kit, which is a very cost-effective way for you guys to replace the parts that really do all the work, which is going to be your plunger seal, which is the unit that's actually the plunger moving up and down inside of that injection stem. And that injection stem then is what's doing all that work, pulling up that concentrate. So we want to replace that seal as much as possible, because that's really, honestly, the most important part to the whole system, bringing up that concentrate and blending it. And then some check valve parts. On the bottom, you can imagine that check valve's constantly opening and closing. We get some wear on that. So if you're using your unit all the time, annually, and really kind of using it all day, once a year is recommended on this. If you're using it seasonally, you use it for a while, or use it for spot applications, and then you put it away, you keep it clean once every 2 years is not too far out of the norm. One of the best ways to actually keep your Dosatron running the way that you want it to is to continually check your EC. So I've had a lot of questions the last couple days, because we now carry a line of EC and pH pens and meters. I've had a lot of questions about what does EC truly mean to me and my end result. And I'm going to tell you, if you're going to go from flowers to food, flowers are a little bit more forgiving. So meaning with flowers, we can take a 1-bag mix. We can mix it based on the directions on the back. Let's say we want 200 parts per million of nitrogen. We're going to mix it based on the recommendations of the manufacturer of that product. And we're going to be pretty confident that that's going to get what it needs, right? That 200 parts per million of nitrogen. As you go into food, you'll find that there's a little bit more finickiness to the product. You may have to make on-the-fly adjustments, and because of that, having these tools are really going to help you guys be successful. So one of the things that once you're going into food is you're going to actually have an EC and a pH separately from each other. So the EC is going to help you keep your conductivity in line. pH is going to help you actually keep your pH in line and keep ahead of it, because once you run into pH problems on leafy greens, it's kind of hard. It's much harder to reverse than, believe it or not, when we're growing most ornamentals. Again, we have all these technical documents online. We take a lot of pride in our service. So we have everything you can imagine for what you need for your Dosatrons right on our website. Website's going to take an update here at the first of the year, and it's going to get even better. So it'll be easy to access for mobile devices and so on and so forth. Parts diagrams. For those of you that are not going to use our YouTube or not going to have access to that technology, the fantastic part is that we have these parts diagrams that you can order from us. You can get from your local supplier, and Griffin has access to these as well. So when you print these out and you have these on site when you're doing a repair, the nice thing is we're going to tell you all the part numbers. We're going to break down the entire unit and show you how it goes together. So these parts schematics are very nice to have on hand, and I would recommend all of you find a way to get those for the Dosatron units you're using. Now we're going to go into water treatment a little bit. So, one of the things that, again, we get into once we go to food is we got to keep things clean. We want to have a little bit more automated control. So when we go into growing food, we're going to want to use an electric pump to deliver things like pH control, so our acids into the line, bicarbonates, depending on where we need that pH control, and then of course your water sanitization products. Again, going back to water treatment, what we're really trying to accomplish is cleaning the water, because if we start with clean water, we're going to have much better results in that root zone, right? So as we irrigate, as we broadcast over the top of the plants, if we keep that water clean, we're going to have less issues with having to deal with pathogens on the back end. So it's a little bit more of a front end preventative maintenance or preventative control than it is reactionary. So we believe a lot in the water treatment movement, and we believe that a lot of people are going to get more and more into trying to centralize their irrigation systems, and therefore are going to need something that's a little more central outside of a Dosatron. We can do products, great success with a product called Uptake and Clean Grow. Those have worked really, really well with the Editron E1 pump. I'm going to show you here a little bit how we go from working on Dosatrons to using electric pumps. We are obviously very, very familiar with proportionality, right? So we're going to use flow to bring up a product and then use that product based on the flow. So meaning that keeping that concentrate blended at the right rates with the incoming water. So what we've done here is actually we're showing you how we're running it proportional. So those of you that are comfortable with a Dosatron, you're comfortable with proportionality, we're going to use a flow meter. Okay, that's connected back to the electric pump that allows us to run off of proportion. So now we're not that far off from our comfort level, which is Dosatron. And we're able to take same concept, we're going to run off of whatever water flow, so be it at 10 gallons a minute or 100 gallons a minute, it knows what that signal means based on the gallon, on the flow, and it's going to pump in the right amount of product that's necessary for that based on flow. So again, it's just like a Dosatron, we're running proportional. And so with an electric pump, we actually directly inject into the flow outside of like a Dosatron where we're running through the unit. So that's really where we vary a little bit, but it allows products like, again, highly concentrated products, acids and your sanitization products. We also work very closely with Biosafe. They actually have a particular pump that works very, very well for their products like Xeritol, Sanidate, and again, because it's so highly concentrated, we need rates of somewhere between 1 in 5,000 to 1 to 50,000 when you go to their more concentrated products than Xeritol. Xeritol typically works really, really well with that unit that we talked about earlier, that 1 to 3,000 to 1 to 333 unit. But anytime you need to get to that 1 to 5,000 to 1 to 50,000 range that they need for the Sanidate, you're gonna get into this electric pump we talked about, Editrons. Similar as we had the motion earlier, this one isn't as pretty with the motion, but it does kind of show you everything and what we for a typical installation. So again, we're going to put a saddle over the top of that PVC pipe for both the flow meter and the injection point, and so it makes it a super simple installation on any existing plumbing. So our goal is to make it just as easy as a Dosatron would be to install. And last but not least, we're going to talk a little bit about foaming again. So you can see here, based on our foaming and our little cute characters here, that we're actually able to foam pads, benches, floors, walls, and able to get everything wet, right, with the product, actually put the product on, but because of the foam, again, we're increasing contact time. By increasing contact time, we're going to get better efficacy of that product. So when it comes to algae, as we all know, you can break that top layer of skin and it just comes right back. So by foaming, we're actually able to increase the penetration too. So when you've got a deep orifice, like the cooling pads, and you get that foam inside that orifice, it allows you to actually get a little bit more penetration. So it's been very, very successful on cooling pads, which we all know are expensive and they're very difficult to clean. So this does add some a little bit of an advantage, an upper hand against algae. So we've got a couple different ways that we do foaming, and I'll kind of show you here. Sorry about that. I'll show you here the. Just did it again. Woo. The foamer itself actually can be a handheld. You fill it with your solution, and you put a hose right to it, and you just go to town with this one. It's got 20 different tips that we can change the dilution rate, and allows a very nice variance, in what product you can put on. So everything from Strip It, which is a fantastic cleaner, works very, very well to clean out that algae, to some of the BioSafe products, let's say, for example, that will be your sanitizers. So, and then we have the airless foam wand, which you again can see on the little buddy. So this is going to be for much larger areas and cover your greenhouse in a much quicker time. You can see some examples here. I just wanted to show what foaming kind of looks like. So here he's doing it under the bench and on the floors. When we were done, this was a very slippery greenhouse. Okay, I walked in and almost fell a couple times. So I was excited to be able to do some foaming here and do foaming trials because it was a pretty nasty environment. And once we were done, this concrete looked like it was almost brand new. So you can see here again, you can almost see the algae buildup on just the base of the galvanized pipe sticking up here, and you can see the algae kind of growing here, and that's what the whole floors look like. So it's nice to get it clean. Last, we've got a proportioner. So anytime you guys have applications where you're putting some sort of sanitary product into a bottle versus having to take a Dosatron and fill it or measure it by hand, we actually have this little guy that's very cost effective. You can put it in line and then just use it to fill your bottle. So if you're using, let's say you're going to where you're cutting down your product post or pre-harvest, then this has been a very good little tool for that. So, and here's just kind of the different tips, and this is similar to the tips that we're going to put in this, again, for staying proportional to the flow. And that's it. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you being here. Have a wonderful day.